Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the VIN registry. So as you know, we track, thanks to you, all the Acura CL Type S 6 speeds throughout the US and Canada. Link in the description below if you haven't added your vehicle to our registry. Constantly looking for updates as well. So if you've done it once, feel free to do it again. So let's go ahead and get into it here. As you see here, we've got a total of 164 cars in the VIN registry as of the end of June. And the breakdown here is 157 vehicles in the US and 7 Canadian vehicles. So just kind of giving you a point of reference, there's about 330 Canadian vehicles and about 1,500 US vehicles. So this is a small portion of the total amount made by Acura throughout the North American continent. So let's go into the percentages. Out of the total percentages of VINs that we have in the registry, that 164, 4% represent Canadian cars, 96% represent US cars. So no big surprise there. I think what the big surprise here is that we actually have 7 registered unique Canadian VINs out of the 330 that are known to be produced. So that's kind of an interesting statistic. Far more of a larger percentage of Canadian cars known than US cars participating in our registry. Let's go down into the external colors. If we break this down, we're going to do a little bit different view from what we did in the last video, which was mostly pie charts. Let's do some bar graphs because I think that's going to actually represent the data here a little bit better visually. So out of the 164 vehicles, we have 15 Aegean Blue Pearls, 23 Anthracite Metallics, 36 Nighthawk Black Pearls, 19 San Marino Reds, and 52 Satin Silvers, and 19 total Taffeta Whites. So by far, the most vehicles in our registry is 52 with the Satin Silver Metallic, followed shortly by the Nighthawk Black Pearl. And I think most people will be surprised by the low number of Aegean Blue Pearls that are actually in our register. We only have 15 of those. Okay. Next, we're going to break down country and exterior color. So we started with the country of total number, and then we broke that down in exterior color. Now we're looking at both. So we're looking at, if you have a Nighthawk Black Pearl, for example, how many are Canadian and how many are US? So as you can see here on the left-hand side, we have a breakdown of those numbers, but here's really telling what the bar graph is. So up above, we knew that Satin Silver Metallic was predominantly the color of choice, it seems. And 48 of the total number of 52 are from US and 4 are from Canada, followed by the Nighthawk Black Pearl with 35 US and 1 Canadian. What's interesting here is that out of the 15 up above, total Aegean Blue Pearls, we have 2 Canadian vehicles represented out of the 15 and 13 from Canada. So interestingly enough, Aegean Blue Pearl seems to be well represented in Canada as far as a percentage. No San Marino Red, and I think we know why, because I don't believe, if I remember my data correctly from a video that we had to poll recently, the San Marino Red never made it to Canada, which would then explain why we have 0 Canadian cars. Anthracite Metallic, I don't remember off the top of my head whether we have Canadian vehicles in that color combination in Canada or not. So just interesting nonetheless. Let's take a look at exterior over interior colors. So for example, we have San Marino Red here, representing 19 total vehicles from the lot. And for our San Marino over ebony, and 15 are San Marino over parchment or tan. And you can see here that this is the breakdown: satin silver metallic, solely ebony. If I remember correctly, that did not come in parchment. And we have a pretty even split of taffeta, slightly more on the parchment side, but taffeta over ebony, almost a 50-50 there. And then we have well represented ebony on and throughout. So what's interesting here, at least for me, is I have a Nighthawk Black Pearl over parchment, and that seems to be somewhat of a lower combination than Nighthawk Black over ebony. Okay, let's take a look at whether the car had navigation or not. 164 vehicles known in our registry, 115 are non-navigation. We have 5 unknowns, which we could easily identify, but we are looking at the raw data here, and 44 with navigation. Okay. And when we combine that with exterior colors and navigation, here is the data. Probably the most interesting here is taffeta white over, taffeta white with navigation. That combination, I believe, is fairly rare in the total number of production vehicles. And we have 3 of those in the registry, so well represented statistically out of the total lot. The biggest number here is clearly satin silver metallic without navigation. We have 38 total vehicles in our registry without navigation. And Aegean Blue Pearl with navigation seems to be a pretty exclusive combination. Okay, so let's talk about what is the status of the total vehicle. So this is based on what you or owners of the vehicles have inputted into our form. And once again, that link will be in the description. The idea here is to not only document the vehicles that are on the road, but also document the vehicles who would otherwise be destroyed, or maybe they're project restoration projects, cars. Either way, the car itself is in a category of not on the road, or not on the road and at least drivable or in some sort of state of race car restoration or something of that nature. So when we look at the total cars, it drops down from 164 to 163, and the reason for that is because sometimes we source information from various different data pools, and that includes cars that are from auction sites, from salvage yard sites, etc. So sometimes the numbers vary a little bit, but we reduced down one because there's one that wasn't documented, and that's probably from an owner, but nonetheless, let's get into the data. So 163 documented here. 4% of the cars, or 7 cars, are in a state of not registered and on the road, meaning that they're drivable or in a state of restoration but not currently registered. 87% of the total cars here are registered and on the road, and we have at least documented 9% or 15 vehicles that have been destroyed. And I think that's an important number here to just highlight, because it really is an all-encompassing viewpoint that we're trying to capture here. We're not just trying to capture the cars that people own, although I understand it's somewhat easier to do so. What we're really trying to do here is account for all the VINs. We know this is a semi-exclusive car here, and so we really just want to account for all the cars and their current state. So if they are destroyed, or you know of one that is destroyed, please feel free to document that as well. Engines are kind of hit and miss, but that is our next category here. We're going to take a look at whether the original J32A2 engine that came with this vehicle was in there. If not, was it replaced with another J32A2, or was it replaced with a different motor altogether, or do you just simply not know because your car was, purchased and it just is as a mystical history, let's say. 8% of the cars that we have documented um, have had an engine replacement with a similar J32A2 engine. 3% have been replaced with something other than a J32A2. And we know that that's likely going to be a J35 engine. We have a couple vehicles, at least that I'm aware of, within the registry that have a J35 in them. We have a 25% of an unknown status. It's probably fair to say that they have the original engine. If they're not the original engine, I'd be surprised. And also, we ask you that if it's a salvage or destroyed car that you're documenting, to put an unknown status, because at that point we assume that that engine has gone on and lived somewhere else. Perhaps it was taken from the salvage yard and placed into another vehicle. And then we have 64% with the original engine. All right, so let's take a look at what is the mileage across the board here. So we have back our 164 total number. The average mileage currently in the VIN registry is 172,512 miles. That is up slightly by about 25,000 miles from the last time we provided an update after the first 30 days. So that's not a big surprise, I would say, mainly because these cars continue to age and the mileage goes up. But also, we've documented more cars since then, and it would go to reason that the mileage is going to increase as we get more cars. What is the max number of miles on a car? So if we look at the min and the max of mileage, our max, somebody out there has documented 327,000 miles. So congratulations to that individual. You have topped the previous record of 294,000 miles, or about 295,000 miles since our last update. And still remaining unchanged is the 17,000 mile car that we previously spoke about, which is in it's kind of a static situation in a collection. This would be the Duncan Import collection. I believe it's in Virginia. And this car, maybe it's Georgia, but either way, it's down on the East Coast, on the southern side of the East Coast. And that car is not going to rack up miles. As my understanding is that car will be pretty static for some time to come. So let's get into a new statistics that we didn't share with you last time, which is what is the lowest production number VIN that we have in the registry, and what is the highest production or the latest production vehicle in our registry. So the lowest in our registry is car number 123, which is kind of interesting. So car number 123 is the lowest VIN registered in the registry. The lowest VIN manufactured is car number 50. So we're not too far off from that. We're about 70,000, 73,000, or 73 vehicles, off from the lowest known manufactured VIN. And if we look at the highest VIN, so the latest production vehicle in the registry, that's car number 16325. And that is in the last batch of 15 cars that were produced. So that's a very interesting car. So somebody out there has one of the last batches of cars that rolled off the assembly, because we know that the last VIN is number 16337. So the person that owns car number 16325, they are literally 12 vehicles away from the last known manufactured vehicle to roll off the assembly. So that is your update for through the end of June 2023 for the registry on Acura CL Type S 6 speeds. So I hope you enjoyed this stroll down the statistical road. Please leave a comment below if there's an interest in a particular statistic that you would like to know about, and we'll try to include that in the next video. For now, hope you have a good day, and we'll catch you on the next one.